Let's look at the AI news. Stardate 1/13/2024. First of all, OpenAI changes policy to allow military applications. It's a minor tweak that most of us probably missed. It wasn't broadcasted, but the Intercept caught it. OpenAI used to say no to anything that was military. You're not supposed to use it for military applications. But that's not the case anymore. So this is how it looked like before the change, right? It'd say you don't allow the use of our models for military and warfare. Now, an OpenAI representative, Nico Felix, explained there's still a blanket prohibition on developing and using weapons. You can see that it was originally and separately listed from military and warfare. So right here it says, don't use our service to harm yourself or others. Don't use it for self-harm, to develop weapons, injure others, or destroy property, or engaged in unauthorized activities. So maybe it was just rewritten to be a little bit more readable, or maybe they want to be a little bit more specific, but a little bit more open to certain applications. So this is TechCrunch, as they point out. OpenAI's GPT platforms could be of great use to, say, Army engineers looking to summarize decades of documentation of a region's water infrastructure. So maybe saying the military shouldn't use it, that's a little bit too maybe restricting. There might be some good uses. Saying just don't hurt people with it, that's plausible. So it looks like some AI companies from the US, like OpenAI, Anthropic, and Cohere, secretly met with Chinese AI experts. So it looks like the meetings were set up by the Sheikh Group, who usually deal with conflicts in the Middle East. We covered a little bit of this in the video about when Sam Altman was trying to develop AI chips. It's all very hush-hush. It's not very publicized, but it does look like there's some attempts to communicate and coordinate how all these nations deal with AI safety. In other news, there's a major update for Open Interpreter. Now, Open Interpreter had...
Open Interpreter is what he's trying to say.
It's kind of like the original code interpreter, what's now called advanced analytics, but, open source, that you can see exactly what it's doing. And you're able to use any model that you want with it. So you can start by using GPT-4 or GPT 3.5, but you can also run it fully locally using any model that you want. And it's very exciting because we've been seeing a lot of things like that Rabbit app that allows you to basically talk to your assistant, and that assistant goes and does things on your behalf in on the web or on your computer. Well, this is kind of like that, but completely open source. So it's very exciting. And on January 5th, 2024, they had a major update. They're saying the new computer update is the most significant update to OpenAI interface since the first version. Almost every component has been rewritten to support our project's objective, building a standard interface between language models and computers. So they have a computer API. They have a full operating system mode where the thing just takes over your computer and is able to click on things, open stuff, run it. It uses Python to move your mouse around, stuff like that. And now it has vision, because if you're using GPT-4, it has the ability to use that for vision, to recognize objects. I might do a full video on this at a different time, but here's kind of what that looks like. So we activate our environment that I've installed everything in, and then we run. So you run Interpreter, which is the original one, and it can do quite a bit of things. It does it very well. It's very impressive. But the new ones are, for example, if you do Vision, it will run the Vision model. So as you can see here, Vision enabled, it's experimental, and the model is set to GPT-4 Vision Preview. Here, I'll make that bigger. So by the way, on a completely unrelated note, does this look familiar? Is this a familiar logo? I remember seeing this logo with this horn thing here, the cornucopia, the horn of plenty, whatever you want to call it, the basket. This was the logo for a company called Fruit of the Loom, a clothing company. But for some reason, the entirety of the internet, no matter where I look, everyone's telling me that, no, this has always been the Fruit of the Loom logo. This was not it. This was it. This is what it looked like. But they're saying, no, that's just a Mandela effect. Apparently, there's just a bunch of us to remember it like this. We know that's what it used to look like, but no, that's not it. It's always been like this. I feel like I'm going crazy just a little bit. So I have this image on my desktop, and I'll put it right here so you can see it. So first things first, I've been messing around with it a little bit. So it's a little clunky. There's some issues here and there. So first I'll ask it. So I'm going to say, what is the address of the file fruit on my desktop? The reason I do that, if you say, open this file or look at this image, it immediately sends it to GPT-4 with Vision. And then GPT-4 with Vision comes back with, hey, you got to upload the image. So there's a lot of issues that are still being worked out. So be patient with it. But it's saying, so we're going to run this command and we're going to figure out what the address is. So we'll say yes. Now, the reason that I'm doing that is basically because for it to work, the little workaround that that I found that makes it work is actually giving it the exact address. So it found this image, and now, it knows what I'm talking about. So I'll say in the file, and then I'll paste the address that it gave me. Look at the image and tell me what you see. So it goes to work, and it says the image displays a variety of fruits arranged pictorially. Behind the apple and to its side, there's a cornucopia, also known as the horn of plenty, which is traditionally a symbol of abundance and nourishment. There's also a trademark symbol, which there is a trademark symbol there. Next, let's say I found this image online and I wanted to create something like it. Like I like the color scheme. I like kind of what it looks like, but I want something of my own. So I'm going to say, look at this image, and I'll post a whole URL in there, and I'll say, and then use DALL-E to create something similar, something different enough to be its own thing, but similar style. Let's try that. Again, I'm not actually using those images. This is just for testing purposes. But let's say you saw something cool looking in a different industry and you want to kind of adapt that look to your own thing. So it writes out the plan. So it's going to, it repeats what we said. So we want to take that image and then use the OpenAI DALL-E API to generate a new image. So here's the plan, and it writes out the plan. Okay, so it says it can't use DALL-E. Let's test it. Use DALL-E to make an image of a flower. So it says it can't do it, but it does give me the code if I wanted to run it myself. We're not going to do that. So I'm just going to paste that URL in there of the Ninja and say, please download this image and set it to my desktop. So it thinks about what it has to do, use Python with the request library to download the image from a given URL, and then start at step 1. I really like how they are really doing a great job of writing out the instructions for this thing. So it starts out by making a plan, and it writes it out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the steps that are required. And then it goes through and starts executing it one by one. Here's the Python code that it wrote. And so it's going to go to this image URL, and then it's going to save it to my desktop. Would you like to run this code? Yes, I would. And then it's going to go forth and do that. It almost looks like it clicks on these things. It highlights it for a brief second or two. And here's that image that it downloaded. There it is. All right. So that's pretty cool, right? But what is the new operating system thing that's running? So let's get out of here. And we're going to write interpreter, and we'll say OS. We'll run it as OS. And so you got to make sure you have screen recording permissions, because it's going to be taking screenshots of whatever you're doing, sending it to GPT-4 with vision, and using that to determine what actions to take. Very clever. And so use the API for Open Interpreter, so they don't store it, but it does get sent there. What's really interesting here, what I think is important to understand, is this is open source. And so right now it's kind of clunky and it's using GPT-4, so it can get kind of expensive. At the end of this, I'll show you how much of my life savings I've used up just to run these calls. But they're building out their own operating system. They're building out everything that they're going to need for this to run flawlessly, effectively, and do all your commands. So that is, in fact, like its own operating system that you're just talking to. And by the way, they do have a Jarvis-like thing that you can talk to. If you have your OpenAI API key, you also need 11 Labs, which is that speech synthesis AI voices platform. But if you have both of those, you can actually just talk back and forth with this thing, tell it what to do, and it's going to execute it. But my point here is that they're building this thing that right now is, it's hard to use. There's some issues here and there, and, it might get expensive with the API calls to OpenAI, but eventually a lot of these models will be available locally, available open source. And by that time, this thing will have built all the infrastructure needed for this to be the go-to open source AI operating system. Now, I'm not saying that's guaranteed to happen, but I'm pretty impressed with what they're doing. It might be easy to dismiss now, but their long-term vision, where they're going, if they execute it, it's going to be scary, because this might be the next Linux or the next WordPress or the next Android system, this open source massive thing that everybody's contributing to and using. And it's the kind of default go-to for certain applications. And it will be the AI powered operating system. All right, so here, let me clear some space and I'll ask it to open the calculator. All right, there it is. So it managed to open the calculator. And then to make sure that the calculator is open and to assess what's on the screen next, I will execute, the computer display.view after a 2-second delay and give the calculator time to open up. Then I'll analyze the screen and provide detailed answers to the routine procedure questions. Now, right now, it kind of talks about everything that it's doing in the background. I've heard this referred to in AI research as, using a scratch paper, basically. So in order for us to understand what it's doing and maybe when it goes wrong, we just have it talk through every single thing that it's doing. All right. And then it's like, all right, done. Let me know what you would like to do next. So one thing that it does, somewhat poorly so far is making sure that it's using the active window. So sometimes it kind of goes back and forth. And maybe that's my fault. Maybe I missed some piece of documentation that talks about it, but let me try this. I'm going to say, make sure calculator is the active window and calculate what 2 plus 2 is. So it's going to use the app activate to make sure that calculator is indeed the active window. And then it's going to send the necessary keystrokes to the calculator. All right. So it looks like it wrote some code that failed, but from what I've seen, it's really good at finding its own errors and trying again. So let's see if it's able to figure out what went wrong. So the error message indicates that the method that it attempted to use does not exist. But it says, but I have another idea. Let me try something different. Okay, actually, here it goes. So it typed in 2 plus 2 equals 4. And then it's going to wait 2 seconds. It's probably going to take a screenshot and verify that, in fact, everything worked out correctly. All right. And it says the task is done. So again, it thought about what it needed to do. It came up with the code that needs to do it. It got an error message, right? And thought about it and figured out what the issue was. And it said, we just have the wrong function name. So the idea was correct, but it just wrote the wrong function name. Then it typed in 2 plus 2, and then it hit enter. Then here on the calculator, we have, the number 4. So we're going to say close the calculator. All right, so to close the calculator application, we'll use a method that simulates the Alt F4 keystroke. Yep, and it closed itself. So as I've mentioned before, and this happens every once in a while, so it has right now a poor understanding of what the active window is. So stuff like this does happen, but that does seem like it's an easy fix. And just like that, with the power of editing, we are back. So let me try that again. We're going to do conda activate our open interpreter environment, and we're going to run interpreter OS. All right. And we're going to do this. Make sure the notepad is the active window. I think we have to say that for now. On the first line, write the first number of the Fibonacci sequence. On the second line, the second, and continue like that until the 20th line. All right. Let's see what it does there. So the first step is to ensure that notepad is the active window. So that didn't work. So it's saying we're going to Alt Tab to make sure that it's the open window. Oh, that's interesting. So what it did was so this little thing that it's saying here for I in range 5, basically that means it's going to cycle 5 times through whatever commands are listed below. So what it did was it hit Alt Tab, took a picture, Alt Tab, took a picture, Alt Tab, so it hit Alt Tab a bunch of times. And then by looking at the pictures, it was able to figure out what was happening when it was hitting Alt Tab multiple times to basically see how many windows I have open, how many windows are being Alt Tabbed at the same time. And now it's going through and it's writing the Fibonacci sequence 1 line at a time as requested. And it's going to continue until it hits line 20. And it's going to take a screenshot, make sure it's right. If you've ever done a lot of data entry where you have to do stuff like that, just imagine for a second what something like this can do. Because I didn't have to explain to it what the Fibonacci sequence is, which for people who don't know, it basically means that our universe is simulated. No big deal. But it went through and it put, I better check to make sure I did it correctly. So like 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, et cetera. I'm going to assume it's correct. So to me, this is incredibly impressive. If you ever have to do large amounts of data entry, something like this can do it quickly, effectively. You don't have to over-explain everything. It might be able to do it much better than you would without making any errors. Now, obviously, there's issues with hallucinations or clicking on the wrong thing, but keep in mind that this is very new. This is still being developed. And this infrastructure, as everything else gets better, as the models get better, as vision gets better, they're going to continue improving this architecture until I think it will be able to do most of the things that humans are able to do on a computer. If this was interesting, they do have, you can get early access to the desktop app. So what I showed you right now, you can do that right now. You just download it locally to your computer. I did a tutorial a while back that shows you how to install it. I'll probably do another one that shows you how to do all the new stuff. But this is the interesting thing, get early access to the desktop app. So if you click on it, it has a little questionnaire. It asks for your email. And then I think everybody gets it, but it's going to be rolling out, it sounds like, in a few weeks. And this thing is exciting. It's not, it's not something that's like fully functional right now. It's not something that's like super usable. It's not going to be able to do everything for you perfectly. It's work in progress. It's research. It's, something to mess around with and experiment with. But you can sense where this is going. You can sense the power under the hood. Once everything gets ironed out, this thing will be magic, basically. Anyways, let me know what you think. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed. And am I crazy, or it was always like this? This is not how it is. Somebody online suggests that there's different like simulations and different universes that sometimes merge together. And that's why half of us remember it being like this and half of us remember it being like this, which at this point almost seems like the most likely explanation. My name is Wes Roth, and thank you for watching.